Good morning. My name is Dennis Deloach, and welcome to the Uncle Jim Effect Podcast, episode number 40. Time flies when you're having fun, and it's hard to believe we're on episode 40, but here we go. Today, we're going to talk about thoughts, and the thoughts are the beginning to all greatness, no matter what area we're talking about to be great in, you name it. It all starts with thoughts in your mind. Before we get started with this all important topic, please subscribe below, leave comments, share with your family and friends. The purpose of our podcast is to help millions of people realize their God given potential. And once we realize that, then to magnify that potential that we receive from God in the service of ourselves, family, friends, neighbors, and communities. And as we do so together, we're going to create a tsunami of hope. So let's get started. Again, I love this concept. Thoughts. Thoughts are what lead to the words that come out of your mouth. The words that come out of your mouth lead to the actions in your life. The actions in your life lead to the habits you create and perform. The habits you create and perform lead to your character, and your character leads to your destiny. Again, thoughts lead to words, lead to actions, lead to habits, lead to character, which ultimately leads to your destiny. So the thoughts we have, positive, negative, good or bad, lead to the destiny we have, which is positive, negative, good or bad. So that's an important concept, and we're going to talk about that this morning in detail. I'm going to start as I do with a quote, and it was by a famous psychiatrist, Karl Meninger. It's very short and simple, but I love it. He said, "Attitudes are more important than facts." And think about that for a minute. Attitudes are more important than facts. And we all know examples of this. I mean, think of the blind man climbing Mount Everest, the man with no legs running a marathon. I mean, the facts are you don't have any legs, buddy. You can't run. His attitude said, I'm going to run. The blind man climbing Mount Everest. I mean, the facts are you can't walk across the street. And he says, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. So attitudes are much more important than facts. That's the main concept we need to keep in mind. And it sounds funny, but the thoughts you have in your mind lead you to your destiny. Even things just as simple as, well, I'm not very good at that, or I'll probably not get there, or yeah, I know he can do it, but I really can't. Absolutely, you can do anything you want. It all starts with the thoughts in your mind, and we're going to discuss that. So, again, I just mentioned what the purpose of this podcast is. The purpose of this podcast was to help millions of people realize their God given potential. Think about that. If that's not a thought process, I don't know what is. So, as we move forward, as we rely on not our own abilities, but on that God given potential that we're searching for, because we know once we get in alignment with what God wants us to do, we know that at that point, we're absolutely going to magnify and multiply every talent or gift that we have for good. Excuse me. So I love the book, The Power of Positive Thinking. It's not a long book. It's by Norman Vincent Peale, and it's fantastic. If you get the chance to read it, most people have read it, but if you haven't, go back and reread it. And I want to read just the first paragraph. Actually, it's a couple of sentences, how this book starts out. And it kind of sets the tone for us and what we should do. It says, believe in yourself. Have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. But with sound self confidence, you can succeed. So, without sound self confidence, you cannot be happy or succeed. What is sound self-confidence? I think a lot of times people are afraid of that word, self-confidence. The self-confidence is not arrogance. Sound self-confidence is confidence in ourself or the ability we have to accomplish a specific task. I believe the word sound means that it's stable, that we can rely on it, that it's predictable, and that we have done it before and we know it works. Now, how does that fit in with the thought process and with God given potential? Let's discuss. Excuse me. So, uh, God given potential or our source of self confidence, how could our self confidence or confidence in self be more rooted in positivity than knowing it's not myself that I'm confident in? I'm confident that God believes in me and that I'm a son or a daughter of God, and that He and His gifts and talents to me are what give me the confidence to move forward. So if we have that mindset that this isn't about me, this is about me acting as God's instrument to do things He wants me to do. And again, I'm a faith-based person. This isn't about faith. This is about reality. That if you don't have self-confidence, trust in what God has planned for you, and trust in that confidence that He can do anything. Obviously, the creator of the universe can get you the ability to do whatever it is that we can fill in the blank. And so that confidence comes from self knowing that God will intervene and show me my God given potential. And that's as sound as you can get. So that's my definition of sound self confidence. And that's something that we need to rely on and we need to incorporate into our lives. And then we start that thought process we're going to discuss and how that works and why it works. Another great message out of this book, uh, The Power of Positive Thinking, and there's a lot of them, is a quote that says this: "The greatest secret for eliminating the inferiority complex." And at some point, haven't we all had that? So the greatest secret for eliminating the inferiority complex, which is another term for deep and profound self-doubt, is to fill your mind to overflowing with faith. Develop a tremendous faith in God, and that will give you a humble yet soundly realistic faith in yourself. Again, our faith is not in that I'm better than this guy. That's arrogance. But my faith is my confidence is I have absolute faith that if I need to do A, B, or C, and God wants me to do A, B, or C, man, I can be as confident as possible to know that I will get that accomplished, not because of anything I'm doing, other than having faith that God will create a miracle in me to be able to accomplish that. I've seen that in my life so many times I can't count. And I bet if you look deeply at your life, you've seen it too. So remember, self confidence, and we're harping on this, is reliance on knowing and having faith that God will intervene with you, create whatever talents you need to get you to that accomplished goal. Harlow B. Andrews said, "To get anywhere with faith, learn to pray big prayers. God will rate you according to the size of your prayers." I love that concept. Pray big prayers. If do you think God wants us to have an average, middle of the road, mediocre, uh, scarcity life? Look around. He created abundance. He created this beautiful world. He created all things in it. And why in the world would he not want us to enjoy an abundant lifestyle? An abundant in any area you can talk about: health, relationships, finance, business. As long as we don't put that pursuit of wealth first, as long as when we are blessed because of God's grace to have abundance that we share and do good things with it, He will continue to do that. So I like that. Pray big prayers. That's our way of talking about having a 10x life. Whatever you want, double, triple, or 10x it, and I think you'll be shocked. Now, today seems like we're centering this around faith, and I have no problem with that. But again, if you're not a person of faith, excuse me, if you're not a person of faith, that's okay. What we're talking about is realizing your God given potential. The creator of the universe can absolutely give you what you need in life to be successful in what you're looking for. And that's what we're talking about. In the New Testament of the Bible, in the book called Romans, chapter 8, verse 31, I love this concept. It says, if God be for us, who can be against us? And isn't that true? If God is on our side, who in the world, what's it matter who's against us? Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to be tough, that we won't have adversity, that we won't have stumbling blocks placed before us, that we're not going to have bad days, weeks, months, or years. But it says, if God be with us, in essence, who can you line up against me that eventually I'm not going to win? I might lose the battle, but I'm going to absolutely win the war. We know that's a fact. Uh, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great author, also says, they conquer who believe they can. They conquer who believe they can. Believe you can. And where does the belief come from? It comes from the thoughts and what goes on inside of your mind. The dialogue we have in our mind, or what my good friend Tom Shea calls internal dialogue, what you say to yourself, the thoughts you have, absolutely dictate your mindset, your belief, and your results. Like we said, we know that thoughts lead to words, which lead to actions, which lead to habits, which lead to character, which ultimately lead to destiny. So I have come up with, and this isn't me, these are things that I've acquired over the time and all the mistakes I've made. And this is a list of the 10 ways that thoughts can become your strength. And as we kind of try to control our thoughts and perfect that process of what goes in our mind ultimately leads to our destiny, we're going to talk about 10 ways that we can help you. And there's no particular order, but I love it. So step number one in the 10 ways that make thoughts become your strength is what we just heard. Pray big prayers or dream big. And when you dream in vivid detail. For example, let's talk about a goal of running a marathon. When you have that thought process, you want to think in your mind, I am a runner. I need to run. And you visualize yourself starting, and you can just visualize the steps you're taking, and you can visualize yourself crossing that finish line. And what is the thought going to be in your mind, and the great feeling in detail? What are you wearing? What's the crowd doing? What's the day look like? Is it sunny, cold, rainy, or windy? All of those things in as vivid a detail as you can, and over and over and over, you picture that in great detail. But you dream big, you pray big, and you set these goals high. And that's the first step on thoughts becoming your strength. The second one is, once you've established that goal, every day you need to visualize success. Visualize yourself finishing the race. Even if you stumble and fall, you get back up and go. Even if you twist your ankle, you continue to walk. Whatever it is, you visualize success on a daily basis. Third, as we go through this process, absolutely negative thoughts will enter into your mind. As they do, practice the technique of immediately overriding those with positive thoughts. So have a go-to phrase that when a thought comes in, like, yeah, how can you do that? You're 50 pounds overweight. How are you going to run a marathon? And you just say, I am a runner. I need to run. And so that's a positive thought, and you override that. So every time something comes in your mind, override that with a positive thought. Number 4, focus on overcoming, not on the obstacles. If we always look at the obstacles, that's what we focus on. So when an obstacle is placed before us, what do we focus on? How do I overcome that? Because we know obstacles are coming. That's the one thing that we can guarantee in life, is every day there's going to be obstacles to whatever we want to fill in the blank with. That's okay. That's life. So knowing that, get used to it and focus on the process of overcoming, not on focusing on the obstacles. The fifth step to thoughts becoming a strength for us is that quote we've talked about before. Comparison is the thief of joy. don't compare yourself to others. If you do, what does that do? That starts that mental negative process. Oh, I've got a nice home, but my home's not as nice as so and so. I've got a really good business, but not as good as so and so. Yeah, I've lost 27 pounds, but not as much as so and so. Don't focus on other people. It'll rob you of the joy you deserve. Focus on little things, little victories, and focus on your gratitude and success and not on other people, or it will rob you of joy. Number 6, we have to practice positive daily affirmations and think thoughts. If that is not happening, if you're not literally meditating or thinking on a daily basis and talking, having that internal dialogue or whatever you want to call it, it will not work. We literally, if you want to lose weight, you have to practice. If you want to get good in business, you have to practice. If you want to have a great relationship, you have to practice. If you want to have a great thought process, you need to practice this step. And this step is to quietly meditate and think those positive thoughts. There are so many positive affirmation meditations out there. The one I personally do is about 18 minutes. I do it every morning, and I absolutely love it. It has changed my life because it changed my thought process, which ultimately leads to destiny, like we've talked about several times. So I know there were times in my life where I thought, oh my heavens, that positive affirmation is just hocus pocus. It is not. I trust me from experience. It took me a while, but it absolutely works. And you will see miracles in your life if you do that. I promise you. Number 7, remember 10x is a real tangible thing. When you 10x your life, that starts the thought process. And the thought process with 10x is exactly that. It's not like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. It's absolutely all barriers removed. That's what I'm going to do. Now, what's the process of getting there? I don't focus on the goal. I focus on the process. But 10x begins the thought process of us leading us to our destiny. Number 8, this needs to be repeated 3 times a day. So you need to have those positive affirmations. You need to have morning, midday, and night. You need to have, whether it's a short, 30-second thing, but you need to go through that. I've got a paper that I've come up with my list of 10x goals, and I've narrowed them down, and I literally review that. And I just, to myself, will repeat what that is once a day, typically, usually in the evening. I'll say it out loud. So that before I go to bed, that's the last thing my subconscious mind has heard are these positive things in my life. And so that's really, really important. And then number 9 is give your best effort, even if the path changes or is unclear. So a lot of times we start on our path to what we think is a 10x goal. And along the way, things start to change and we realize we're not headed to that goal that we thought we were. God has redirected us, or fate has redirected us in another direction. Don't stop there. Have the faith that you're heading in the right direction. It might not be at the right destination, but continue to get after it every day. You can give a great effort and continue to do that. And even if you don't know if the destination has changed, don't stop. Keep moving forward. I remember as an example in my life when I was doing that first Moab half marathon mountain race, we got out and because I was, how do you say, slower than most people, I was back and by myself and it was out in the middle of nowhere. And they literally said in the race that if you get, basically you're on your own. If you get out there, we can't get to you. And I remember they had little flags that once in a while you'd see them, and the trail was marked pretty well. We got into an area where it wasn't marked, and I really didn't know which way to go. I had a general direction, but I thought, I know it's this general direction, but this looks a little rougher. It looks easier to go that way, but I knew that wasn't the right way. And even though it looked easier, I thought, no, I know this is the right way, but that led me on some slick rock, and it got us close to where these edge of the cliffs were. And I thought, okay, I know I've got to go this direction. So I kept moving, and eventually the path became much more clear. So use that analogy that sometimes in life we know we're heading in that direction, But when things don't become clear, I don't stop and lose momentum. I continue to move forward. And then finally, the last thing, the last number 10 and the steps to thoughts becoming a strength for us is have faith in God. Faith that this is going to work out. Know that that's the underlying theme here, that if you have faith, the thoughts you have will be positive. Do those things which will lead you to have success, and you will absolutely never be disappointed. You might be stressed, you might have some adversity to overcome, but in the long run, great thoughts lead to the words that come out of your mouth. The words that come out of your mouth lead to the actions that you show up in life with, which then determine the habits you have. Your habits will develop the character that you will have to address every situation. And based on that, that will be your destiny. So the thoughts will equal destiny. And remember, attitudes are more important than facts. I don't care what the facts are. You're 100 pounds overweight. You're bankrupt. It does not matter. That relationship you have with your spouse, daughter, son, friend is beyond repair. That's a fact. The attitudes are what matter. They're much more important than facts. So don't let the facts scare you. Focus on the process. Have great thoughts and words in your mind. Get rid of all the BS and the crap. Replace it with positive affirmations. Simply just the I am statement. For example, in my life, my physical statement is I am a warrior. And that just means I can do anything. It might take me all day and it might take me 12 times longer than other people, but I'm a warrior. Warriors don't give up. My wealth statement is I am abundant. Uh, and I believe that, whatever it is, I am abundant. Whatever I get is more than I need. And then I share and I get more. And so that's just an example in my life. You come up with what you've got, but good luck with this. Again, share this with your family and friends. Hard to believe we're at episode number 40. Um, that just, you talk about the thought process. It is overwhelming to me. I don't take it lightly. We will hit our goal of helping millions of people realize their God-given potential. I hope you're one of them. I know I've sure had my expectations exploded upward based on this podcast. And so thank you so much. God bless, and continue to move forward. Create that positive thought process and see if it doesn't change your life. Have a great one. Until next time. Bye-bye.